So I'm going to say something that has somehow become bizarrely controversial. I do not regret my vote for President Trump in 2024. Not one iota, not one bit. And frankly, I find the entire conversation about regret pretty confusing because here is the thing.
So Ben Shapiro just delivered a systematic takedown of every anti-Trump voter regret narrative floating around right now. This matters because establishment media keeps pushing the idea that Trump supporters are having second thoughts. We're going to see him demolish that fiction with hard facts about what Trump actually delivered versus what Kamala would have done.
The alternative would have been President Kamala Harris. That's the whole thing. It would have been Kamala Harris, and then it was Donald Trump. And let's be clear, the vast majority of things that President Trump said he would deliver on, he has delivered on. And the vast majority of principles that he said that he believed in, he has effectuated. So why are all of these people suddenly confused that he's doing the things he has been saying for 40 years he was going to do?
This is exactly right. We're now 15 months into Trump's second term, and he's following through on every major campaign promise despite unprecedented establishment resistance. The Iran nuclear strike he just mentioned happened 3 weeks ago, setting their program back decades. That's the kind of decisive action voters wanted.
I'm old enough to remember when the border was fully open during the Biden administration. That is because I am more than 2 years old. I remember when there was a gigantic influx of drugs across the southern border, fentanyl being shipped across the southern border. In fact, I even went down to the southern border and I went to the area where they ship over the drugs, and I could see Mexican cartel drones flying above American territory. All of that under Joe Biden. And I'm old enough to remember when Democrats were calling for the complete defunding of ICE, which, by the way, they are still doing. They had a completely open border for years on end. President Trump pledged he was going to close the border. And then you know what he did. He came in and he closed the border.
The numbers are staggering. Fentanyl killed over 70,000 Americans in 2023 alone, more than the entire Vietnam War. Chinese manufactured fentanyl flowing through our open border was literally a weapon of mass destruction. The cartel drone surveillance he witnessed shows how we'd lost operational control of our own territory.
And it turns out that for the first time in modern history, we actually have a net loss in terms of the people coming into the country. People are leaving the country faster than they are coming into the country. People are just not coming through the southern border. We are deporting a vast number of people. And I know there are lots of folks who say that Barack Obama deported more. Well, no, that's if you game the stats. It's if you pretend that a turn away at the border is a deportation, which it is not. So am I supposed to regret the fact that the border is closed? Am I supposed to pretend that that is somehow a minor issue when Joe Biden was literally opening the doors to millions of people to come into the United States and claim asylum and just stay? That seems like a pretty good reason to not regret having voted for President Trump.
This net negative immigration is historically unprecedented since the Great Depression. The Obama deportation numbers were inflated because his administration counted border turns as deportations, something no previous administration had done. Trump's approach represents actual enforcement, not statistical manipulation.
Or why don't we talk for a second about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion? So, do you remember the Biden times, the before times? Well, Kamala Harris pledged. You remember, Kamala Harris pledged that she would pursue in everything equity. In fact, here's a video of her talking about it.
It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing. Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
Under Joe Biden, DEI, equity, was going to be inserted into every area of federal law, and it was.
DEI had metastasized into federal contracting requirements, military readiness standards, and even NASA hiring practices. Biden's executive order mandated racial quotas across 600 federal agencies. This wasn't just diversity training. It was systematic discrimination against merit-based selection.
And then President Trump came in and he abolished it. Not only did he abolish it, he ended up targeting universities for their violation of civil rights law. He ended up going after companies that contracted with the American government to point out that they were not allowed to adjudicate issues based on race. The president of the United States removed DEI from every area of the federal government, which is a good thing because DEI is basically the statement that your race ought to matter more than your individual merit. It is a rejection of the ethos of Martin Luther King Jr. in favor of an ethos of polarization and segmentation of the American population. It is a very good thing that DEI has been wiped out of American federal life. Now, if President Trump were to not be president, if Kamala Harris had been president, not only would it be there, it would be strengthened. And not only would it be strengthened, it would be bleeding through every area of our society.
The irony is perfect. King's dream of judging people by character rather than color was being systematically dismantled by people claiming his legacy. Trump's civil rights enforcement against Harvard and UNC proved these universities were violating the 14th Amendment through racial preferences.
Remember that time when it was de rigueur in America for you to claim that men could be women and women men? Remember that time when you could be ousted from a job over saying that, when this was a wildly controversial statement that boys are boys and girls are girls? Remember that time when the federal government was trying to leverage states into providing funding for transgender surgeries and hormone treatments for youth? Remember that? Not that long ago. It's like 2 years ago. And Kamala Harris was promoting it full scale. Democrats still promote it. James Tallarico of Texas is still promoting this while running for Senate. Gavin Newsom of California, while not really wanting to promote it, is still promoting it. And remember, under Joe Biden, all of our supposed expert institutions endorsed this nonsense.
Federal agencies threatened to pull Medicaid funding from states that banned child gender surgeries. Teachers lost jobs for refusing to use preferred pronouns. The Department of Education sent guidance forcing schools to let biological males into girls' bathrooms. This was authoritarian overreach masquerading as civil rights.
The American Medical Association endorsed this nonsense. The American Psychiatric Association endorsed this nonsense. Hell, the American Academy of Pediatrics endorsed this insanity. Do you remember Trans Visibility Day? The same day as Easter at the White House, topless men with fake prosthetic boobs at the White House? You remember that? Well, President Trump reversed all of that. President Trump reversed the trans issue. He said that Democrats were for they, them, and he was for you. And he was right about that. And he issued executive orders to that effect. And the newfound freedom to say what is perfectly true, and state action happening across the country to bar the mutilation of children, and medical institutions suddenly coming out and admitting the obvious, which is that they never had any evidence for this kind of torture that they were foisting upon young people.
Sweden, Finland, and the UK all reversed course on youth gender treatments after systematic reviews found zero evidence of benefit. The Cass review in Britain was devastating. Meanwhile, Biden hosted topless activists on Easter, a deliberate insult to Christian America that backfired spectacularly.
Now listen, I have quibbles with President Trump over his tariffs. I don't like his tariffs. I've opposed his tariffs from day one. But to pretend that Joe Biden's economy, which was about regulation and taxation and DEI and climate change and massive inflation and stagnating growth, that was the way forward is insane. And that Kamala Harris was going to do anything different, that's insane too.
Credit where it's due. He's intellectually honest about tariff concerns. But Biden's inflation hit working families hardest, with grocery prices up 30% and housing costs destroying the middle class. Trump's energy dominance and deregulation are already bringing relief where it matters most.
Are you in favor of the climate change insanity being pushed by Joe Biden? Or are you in favor of the radical deregulation happening at the EPA under Donald Trump's appointee, Lee Zeldin? Are you in favor of America losing the AI race to China, as Democrats seem to be? Or are you in favor of America retaining its technological edge, its military and economic edge, thanks to our investments in AI, and mostly our light hand regulations with regard to AI? There's a reason AI is being developed in the United States and not in Europe. And there's a reason the United States is winning the AI war.
Europe's AI sector is strangled by bureaucratic overregulation, while China steals intellectual property and uses AI for surveillance. America leads because we balance innovation with security concerns. Trump's light touch approach keeps us ahead of authoritarian competitors while protecting national interests.
President Trump has always been an advocate of peace through strength. He does not want any long, open-ended boots-on-the-ground wars, but he understands the extraordinary power of the American military. So what is it that you're regretting? The arrest of Nicolas Maduro? and the control of the Venezuelan regime by choking out their oil supply? Or maybe what it is you regret is that Joe Biden was withdrawing support for Israel in the middle of an existential war with Hezbollah and Hamas. And President Trump came in and stopped the conflict in Gaza and got hostages freed by funding Israel so that it could actually continue to fight for its life.
The Iran ceasefire we're seeing now happened because Trump showed strength, not weakness. Compare this to Reagan's approach with the Soviets, peace through superior firepower. Biden's appeasement emboldened Iranian proxies across 3 continents. Strength prevented wider war.
Or maybe what you regret is that President Trump bombed an Iranian nuclear facility at Fordo, setting back their nuclear program. Or maybe what you regret is that President Trump is the first president in any of our lifetimes to take truly seriously the threat of Iran to the extent necessary to actually set them back decades in their pursuit of nuclear weapons, the rebuilding of ballistic missiles, and control of a terror apparatus spreading throughout the Middle East. Maybe what you preferred was Kamala Harris kowtowing to the mullahs, ensuring them a path to a bomb, alienating allies ranging from Israel to Saudi Arabia to UAE. Maybe that's what you were looking for. Or maybe what you were looking for is a Joe Biden inherent weakness policy that created Russian aggression in Ukraine in the first place and created October 7th and the incentive structure for Iran to attack.
The Fordo nuclear facility strike was surgical and devastating, destroying uranium enrichment capabilities that took Iran 15 years to build. This is what decisive leadership looks like. No American casualties, maximum strategic impact. Biden would have sent another strongly worded letter.
For all of those reasons, I'm very, very happy that I voted for President Trump. And when history is written, all of those things are going to be in the books. Immigration, DEI, culture wars, foreign policy, economics, all of those are going to be in the history books.
History will vindicate Trump voters completely. On immigration, culture, foreign policy, and economics, the choice between Trump and Harris was between common sense and radical ideology. The results speak for themselves. America is stronger, safer, and more prosperous.
Cackling Kamala Harris is the thing that you regret not voting for? That? Truly? Well, I guess you'll have your chance to vote for Democrats in 2026, and good luck to you.
This was a masterclass in systematic argumentation. Every major policy area, every supposed regret narrative, completely dismantled with facts. Trump delivered exactly what he promised, while Harris would have accelerated America's decline. The choice was never even close.